Hello friends, welcome to the Big Talk. I'm Trisha Brooke. Welcome to a very special season of the Big Talk. Today I'm going to be talking with the most amazing guests from Podcast Row. Podcast Row's mission is to connect entrepreneurs with podcasters to help them share their story. In January, this exclusive event was held in New York City, along with an incredible partnership with GLOW, the Global League of Women founded by Lisa Wang. GLOW is a new female-first community amplifying female voices that address critical issues, stories, thoughts from business to politics, and personal challenges. And all of my guests in this season have an incredible story, and you all know how important story is for me on the Big Talk. I am super excited to welcome our featured guest today, the incredible Stephanie Redlener. Stephanie, are you ready to drop in?
I sure am.
Stephanie Redlener is the founder of Lioness, a coaching consultancy dedicated to helping powerful women lead and live their lives from a place of pleasure, power, and purpose. Her company activates the primal voice inside all women that often goes unheard. Stephanie's mission is to set this voice free so that women who are leading us into the new world can help step forward from a place of authenticity and magnetic feminine power. As a coach, facilitator, and advisor, she empowers women leaders to remove their armor and explore the more sensitive, sensual, and intuitive parts of themselves so they can lead from a place of inner strength and achieve even greater results in their personal and professional lives. She has a corporate background in talent strategy, culture change, and leadership development, working with Fortune 100 companies such as IBM and MetLife. She also trained under some of the most influential leaders in the modern women's movement. She is a graduate of the School of Womanly Arts, a Tantra and sex coach, co-active leadership coach, and femme teacher. She's worked with hundreds of creative and talented women to reclaim and honor their voice and power within. Stephanie, take a minute to fill us in on anything I missed and talk a little about you.
Well, first of all, it's so nice to hear you say my bio like that. I love that. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I've had my own journey in discovering my voice and discovering my power and realizing that my own power doesn't need to always come with force. It doesn't need to come with achievement. It doesn't need to come with productivity, all of these other things. So in my own journey, my mission is very, very personal. It's my own journey.
Talk a little about that journey. Share that story with us.
So I've lived a very windy path. I've sort of always followed my desires and my passions in creating the life that I wanted to live. But I was obsessed with achievement and obsessed with productivity. And if I didn't do X, Y, Z, I would think bad about myself or there. And I didn't realize that in my world, I was disapproving of myself on the inside. So I've been on a real journey to stop proving myself and start approving of myself, really. And so, and that requires surrendering, stopping, listening, nourishing myself, all these things that don't really go with what it means to be ambitious, successful, productive, all of those words.
I love that, and I think what you're tapping into right now is really interesting. All those things that go with, whose definition?
Exactly.
Who's defining that?
Exactly. It's funny, I try to avoid, even though I'm so tapped into the feminine world, I try to personally avoid kind of this idea of masculine, feminine, men versus women, because I think there's a lot in our language that is dividing us. However, we have lived in a society that has valued productivity, that has valued ambition, that has valued getting things done, and success, and thinking. We value the mind, we value what we know, we value logic, we value data, and sort of that's what we pick up. And there are these other softer qualities, such as the heart, such as listening to intuition, listening to our body, these things that kind of sound fluffy that we haven't necessarily valued. So I think it's generations of societies that have valued the intellect and achievement is what I think that's coming from.
I love that. And how do you incorporate the voice and the pulling back or the approving of yourself?
I think we are also a society that really likes to feel fine. Like, Trisha, how are you? I'm fine. I'm good. I'm there, right? It's like this outside, we don't really honor these things that are deemed kind of bad or not good, or I'm a mess. Hey, you know what, Trisha, I'm a mess, or I'm not feeling that great.
That's default language as well, which I think is so directly related to communication.
Yeah.
Why do we say fine and good
Yeah.
without even thinking about how to answer the question?
Yeah. So I think, why do we say fine and good? I think it's opening up a layer of ourselves that might be too vulnerable and scary to open up. You know, for, again, also in my own life, I felt like I had to uphold an image that I had created, and sort of anything outside of that image was wrong. And so I think it's a lot of that.
When you're working with your voice
Yeah.
and the voices of your clients, can you talk to me about, first of all, what is a primal voice?
Yeah.
And how do you set that voice free? We just did a whole season on the power of voice. And I think so many women, first of all, don't know they have a voice.
Yeah.
And then aren't aware of using it because they're not even conscious of it. So share with our listeners what that means for you.
Thank you for asking me about that. Primal voice. Okay, like using the breath. So a lot of stuff that I do more around in my sexuality work, right? And it's an interesting combo, sexuality and leadership. But how do we set our voice free? How do we allow ourselves to breathe in a way that feels really good? How do we allow ourselves to feel and to move? So I see voice as so much more than how we articulate our words. They're about expressing our feelings and expressing our emotions. And so starting there, and I see so many women are just blocked, right? If we don't show up in sex in a certain way, or we don't show up in the boardroom in a certain way, or this, like, then it's not right. So giving people the freedom to scream at the top of your lungs, or this. So I, what I do, depending on the work that I'm working with women, is, we really work on, like, how do we express our feelings? And so starting there, because a lot of times when we can unlock the feelings, we then have more confidence to say what we need to say when we're in a leadership meeting.
I love this, and you just made me think of something for the first time, Stephanie, which is our thought is the start of our voice. Yeah. And then the expression through our articulation is the transmission of that. Yeah. Can you go a little deeper with that for me? I'd love to learn that from you.
Yeah. So I'll take it, one step even deeper, right? Like we have three parts of our brain. We have our conscious brain, our thinking brain, our brain that speaks, the part that guides our communication. Then we have our subconscious layer, which is where our feelings arise and our emotions start. And even beyond that, we have our primal brain, our deeper brain. This is our fight or flight brain. And so a lot of times what gets triggered, let's say we are doing something really scary for the first time, and like my primal brain is like, oh God, get me out of here. I gotta run. And then my feelings I start to feel them as fear. I start to feel them. And then by the time I get to speaking, I'm speaking from a place of fear. So it's really delayering what our voice means and looking deeper into the body.
And I think that is directly related to why the rehearsal process is so important for public speaking. Because, it's scary. So if you have this experience of fear in your body, and then you walk onto the stage, your voice is going to sound scared, fearful and shaky, and then you're going to communicate to the audience in a way that's not confident.
Right.
So you just unpacked that in a way that was so fantastic. Thank you.
Amazing. Yes, no problem.
I would love to hear from you about removing the armor and why that's so important in terms of finding your voice.
Yeah. Again, I think I'll answer this question as it relates to women leaders, right? Women leaders who have had to act a certain way, be a certain way because of the systems at play to make it to a top, to make it into this leadership position. So a lot of times when I bring women together, they are guarded. They don't want to risk coming across as weak, aka vulnerable, so therefore I'm not going to really speak what's going on. And what we do is we miss the opportunity to relate to each other. And I think so much of our future world is around sisterhood and collaboration and how do we hear each other and learn from each other. But if we have armor up, we lose that opportunity.
I couldn't agree more, and I am a big fan of community. In my community, you might be on stage by yourself, but you are never alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we lift one another up. It's so, so important. I would love to know your story, Stephanie. How did you go from being corporate and not approving of yourself and always being super productive to being this goddess, warrior, lioness?
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's a journey, right? And I think it's a for the rest of my life journey, and it would be a lie to say it's not, right? I Can you repeat the question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Stephanie, how did you go from being at the top of your field where productivity meant everything
Yeah.
to being this lioness, goddess, warrior who is now teaching really soften?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of it came to a head for me when I was pregnant. And I realized that I need to be the woman that my child sees, and it was a child because I didn't know if I was having a boy or girl at the time, but and really like the urgency became really, really clear. And so when I had my son, I realized that I can't show up half confident, right? This part of me that is trying to prove that is strong, looks good, looks cool, has it all together there, and sort of falling apart secretly or feeling lost and feeling that. So I really had to go on the hard journey of coming to truth with my whole self.
And what was that? What did that look like, coming to truth with your whole self?
A lot of tears, a lot of fear about outing myself and saying, I know you might look at me and think that I sort of have it all together. It was very common. People would be like, you have it so together, right? And so I felt like I had to lift that. So to like removing the curtain a little bit and say, okay, yeah, this is together, and I feel like a mess here, or I'm scared out of my mind here. And so at first it was very scary to say those things and how I was feeling. And over time and being with other women who were going through the same thing really helped. And I think community and like not doing it alone.
You serve women. You are very in touch with the feminine, the leadership in sex, emotional mastery, and you have a son. What is your responsibility to him and how you teach him to communicate?
Yeah. I feel very passionate about this topic, and there's a lot of messaging out there that is around girl power. You see, girls on the street, and like every other one is wearing like, I can rule the world, I'm going to be future president, there's a lot of messaging out there right now I'm super happy about that is promoting girls and the power of girls. And I think we're missing right now a message towards our boys. And so for me, teaching my son, first of all, showing my son what it means to be a well-rounded human being is really, really important. To teach him to lead with his heart is really important. And so showing up and showing my son, by the age of 2, knew the language of goddess. If I ever, now to this day, he's 3.5, if I'm like, I'm going to meet some girlfriends, he's like, Mommy, you meet goddesses? And I'm like, yeah, I mean goddesses. Like they're so, really, he used to help me, again, I think at 1.5, 2, set up my women's circles that I was leading in my home at the time. And so he's just, I let him in. I let him in so he could see it.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that age, gender's not even a thing yet, right?
No. Like yesterday he wore a full-on Batman outfit with sparkly pink shoes. And I was like so proud of him because I'm like, he's not like these pink shoes are girly. He's like, these pink shoes are awesome. And I'm like, yes, they are. So
yes.
I love that.
Do you think consciousness is genderless?
Big question.
I know.
I do. Do you?
I do. And the reason I say that is because I'm reading Metahuman by Deepak Chopra.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me for the first time that the reason there are trans people is because their consciousness made it into the wrong body.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're wrong, right, not born the right gender. Literally their consciousness ended up in the wrong body form.
Right.
So I think consciousness is just energy.
Yeah. And the more that we can nurture all of those energies within all of us, I think the greater our planet will be in our
Absolutely.
future.
Stephanie, why do you think sharing a story is so important when you take a big stage, when you're trying to reach more people and have a bigger impact?
Permission. If they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. And like if we keep reiterating that through the power of story and the power of sharing our stories, I think that's where the gold is.
That is incredible. That's incredible. Is there anything else you would like for our listeners to know about the journey of removing the armor, unleashing the primal voice so that your voice can be free in order to make the world a better place?
Yeah, I think that whoever is listening, your voice, your story, someone needs to hear it. And if we don't share that story, we miss the opportunity to change someone else's life.
I want to thank you, Stephanie, for being a featured guest today on The Big Talk. That was amazing. Where can our listeners get in touch with you?
Great, they can find me at lioness.com, and they can follow me at Lioness Leadership on Instagram, and I would love to talk to them.
And we will put all of this in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed this special season of The Big Talk with guests from Podcast Row and the Global League of Women. Check out the next episode, and remember, live your truth, be your authentic self, and drop in.